Hello, welcome to A Week in Watches, episode 42. My name is Blake Bettner, managing editor of Worn & Wound. This is a weekly look back at all the people, news, and stories from the industry. Before we get into this week's episode, we are just one day away from the kickoff of Watches and Wonders 2023. Myself, along with our editorial team, will be there at the show. If you would like to follow along with everything that we are experiencing there, all the watches that we're seeing, and our reactions of all the new releases, be sure to keep up to date on wornandwound.com every day. You can also sign up for our email list, which will grant you access to our Slack community, Worn & Wound Plus. So we will be posting some behind-the-scenes looks from the fair live while on the ground in Geneva into this community. You can interact with us. We would love to see you there. Go to wornandwound.com, sign up for our email list, and you will receive an invite to join this community on Slack. All right, getting into this week's news, we're going to lead things off with a new release from Urwerk. Although it's kind of not a new release. This is really a resurrection of a watch from 1997, one of their first watches, the 102. This is called, fairly enough, the 102 Reloaded. This is a watch that takes the same pebble-shaped case, puts a redesigned lug to it, 41 millimeters in titanium. Also can be had in DLC black titanium as well. Now, what makes this watch interesting is, well, there's not much of a dial to speak of. There's really just kind of an arced aperture with the minute track and a wandering hour display that rotates across that minute track, giving you the hour and minute. Very interesting take, and of course this is based on some very old clocks that you'll find in the Urwerk Museum in Geneva. We've got a video of some of this stuff that we will link down below if you're curious to check it out. But Urwerk has brought it back in new form. It looks very modern while still capturing the same spirit of the original. This will be sold initially in a set of the two for a little over $55,000, but hopefully we will get the individual examples available on the market sometime soon. And while we're in the realm of kind of high-end sport watches, we've also got a new release from Czapek this week, a dark titanium Antarctique. This is a watch with no date, and it's in their 41 millimeter case. It's their integrated bracelet. It uses a new version of their in-house movement. Really beautiful movement here, really beautiful finishing work. It looks like a modern movement. This one brings a few upgrades that they've worked on and kind of iterated on over the course of the last few years into kind of a flat gray dial with applied arcs each 5 minutes at the edge of the dial. It's a very beautiful looking watch. This one will be just over $30,000. It's full titanium, as the name suggests. You know, we're kind of spoiled for choice. If you've got around 30, 40 grand to spend on a high-end sports watch, you can add this one to the pile. We've got a lot more on this one now live on Worn & Wound. You can go check that out at the link below. Coming back down to earth a little bit, we've got a new release from Longines within their Spirit collection. This is a collection that they've been building out over the last few years to pretty great effect. We saw the Zulu time last year. This year we're getting another chronograph. This isn't just any chronograph, it's a Flyback chronograph. It's a steel case, there's no date, dual register Flyback chronograph. And I don't know if you knew this, I certainly didn't. Longines was actually the first to use a flyback mechanism in one of their in-house chronograph movements back in the late 20s. So this is Longines' way of kind of shining a light on their history here in a way that some of their watches haven't done in the past. That might be a little surprising, but it's a very cool capture of something that is very closely associated with this brand, whether you knew it or not. The watch itself is the Spirit Flyback chronograph. 42 millimeters, around 17 millimeters thick, not for the faint of heart. It's a great looking watch though. It comes in a black dial and a blue dial. It's got a rotating ceramic bezel around the edge and a lot of the kind of gilt accents that we've gotten used to in the Spirit collection of watches from Longines. This watch is a little over $45,000. We've got more details on this now live at wornandwound.com, linked below. Next up, we have a trio of new releases from Furlan Marri. They are bringing their three-hand sector dial back in regular production form. We've got a salmon dial, we've got a white dial, and we've got a gray dial, all done in sector form. These watches will be around $1,200. They use a modified Le Jeu Paré movement within around 7 seconds per day of accuracy. They've got that beautiful horned lug that we've seen them use before in other limited edition watches, such as the one I have on my wrist right here. And it's 37.5 millimeters in diameter and just over 10 millimeters thick. These were beautifully on the wrist. A lot of the kind of classic, well done design details that we've come to know and love about Furlan Marri are all present here. Head to Worn and Wound to catch more details on that one. And finally, we have a new watch from Vulcain, who have been on a tear lately, bringing back some of their greatest hits from the 60s and 70s, and this one is no exception. This is a chronograph from the 70s. It's a dual register chronograph, 38 millimeters and just over 12 millimeters in thickness, coming in a white dial, a black dial, a salmon dial, which is limited edition to 50 pieces, and a blue dial, of course. These are incredibly sharp watches. These are using a hand-wound Solita movement, which is what allows for that 12 millimeter thickness. And they get a lot of the small details right on this watch, from the bent tip of the timing seconds hand to the application of the hours. Everything about this watch really hits, and it really recalls in beautiful fashion the original from the 1970s. We will have more on this watch on Worn and Wound, including some pictures of the original watch that this is based off of which I am a former owner. So I'll include some of my thoughts on both of these watches down below as well. This watch is $2,650 and will be available this summer. Again, we have more details on all these watches at wornandwound.com. And before we go, just another reminder that we will be in Geneva for Watches and Wonders this coming week. Don't forget to follow along and sign up for our newsletter to get access to our Worn and Wound Plus Slack channel, where we will be posting behind the scenes looks and reactions of all the new releases live from the show floor. If you're not interested in that, that's totally fine. We'll have all of our news and reactions coming at some time or another to wornandwound.com. We'll be talking about it in the podcast. You got plenty of ways to find us. So thank you for tuning into this episode of Week in Watches, episode 42. We will be coming to you live next week, semi-live, recording live from the floor for Week in Watches next week. So stay tuned for that. And until next time, take care.